So in this video we're going to look at the scanner class. The scanner class is used to get input from the user, and we can receive primitive types, things like integers, doubles and booleans, and we can also receive strings. So the way we use the scanner class is we declare a new scanner object, then we connect it to our input, and the examples we're going to be looking at are keyboard and a file. So getting input from the keyboard or getting input from a file. And then we're going to use the methods on the scanner class to get that input. So once we've connected the scanner to our input source, we'll use the methods on the scanner class to get that input. The methods we're going to have a look at are hasNext and next. Now we looked at iterators last week. Iterators have a hasNext and next method. So the scanner class, the hasNext and next method work in a very similar fashion. Remember, those were methods on the iterator class. These are methods on the scanner class, but they work in a very similar way. We're also going to look at next line, next int, next double, and next boolean. So let's have a look at an example. So the first example we're going to have a look at is getting keyboard input. So you can see I've got this method called getKeyboardInput. The first thing I should point out though is if you scroll up the top, you can see I've imported the scanner and it's in the util package. So going back down, okay, so get keyboard input. So you can see I've declared a scanner called keyboard. So it's an object called keyboard of type scanner. And I've set it equals new scanner. So I'm calling the scanner's constructor and I'm passing it system.in. So that means the keyboard. So I'm pointing my scanner to the keyboard. Then I'm printing out a string. Please enter your name. Then I say keyboard. So the scanner object keyboard dot next line. And it will get the name. And you'll see when I run this, after I output this string here, the console will give me a space and a cursor to type something. So when I push enter, this method, the next line method on the scanner object, will get the text that I write, and I'm assigning it to a string called name. Then I'm just printing that back out to make sure that I receive the input correctly. Next line, this method of the scanner class returns a string. So that's why I assign it to a string here. Then I print out the statement, please enter an int. So then, once again, the terminal will give me a prompt to enter some data. So I will enter an int. When I hit enter, this line will run. So next int is a method on the scanner class and it returns an int. So I assign it to an int here. Then I just print it out once again to make sure that I got it correctly. Finally, I print out please enter a double. Once again, it's requesting input. There will be a prompt for me to enter a double. I'll enter the double. Once I push enter, this line will run. So next double is another method on the scanner class. So I'm calling the next double method on the keyboard object, which is an instance of the scanner class. It's going to return a double, which I assign to this variable, this double variable that I declared. And then I just print out the double to make sure that I got it correctly. You'll notice also that I've declared this method static, which means I can run it straight from the class. I don't need to create an object. So let's have a go running this. So I'll just compile it. Once again, it's static, so I can run it straight off the class here. So get keyboard input. And we should see the terminal is opened. So please enter your name, and see it's given me a prompt to enter my name. So I will type in Alex. So we're up to, at the moment, this line in the code. Please enter your name. Now I've typed in Alex. Once I hit enter, this method, next line, will run on keyboard, which is an instance of scanner, and it will assign my name here to this string variable, and then it will print it back out. Okay, so this line here, Alex, was where it was getting my name, and this line, Alex, was where it's printing it back out. Now please enter an int. So I'll enter 5. We can see that this line ran here, and that's the blue 5, and then when I printed it out, that's the black 5. Now please enter a double, so I'll put in 5.8. Okay, so it printed out my double. Now we have to be careful here. If I was to run this again, so let's just clear this, options clear. If I run topic 6 again, get keyboard input, please enter my name. Now because this is going to be getting a string, I can put anything I want in here, and it doesn't matter if it has some ints or whatever, it's going to return this whole line as a string, so that's fine. Please enter an int. Now if I was to enter something that can't be converted to an int, you will see we're going to get an error. So this is not, we're only doing this to demonstrate the scanner. If we were to write something in the real world, we would have to check that it was an int. We would do some error checking. We're not doing any error checking here. So when I call .nextInt and the input is not an int, it's going to throw an error. Likewise, if I did the same thing with next double, if I call, if I have some input that's not a double and I call the next double method on the scanner object and it receives input that is not a double, it's going to throw an error. I haven't handled those errors. I haven't done any exception checking. And that's something for a later class. We'll talk about that. So just be aware of that at the moment. So the next thing we're going to look at is reading a file. So you can see here, once again, we've had to import some things. So you can see file, I'm using, creating an object of type file. So I have to import file. Now up till now, everything we've used, array lists, things like that, the scanner, they're part of the util package. So when I import file, you'll notice it's actually part of the IO package, input output. So I have to import file. Once I've imported file, I can declare a file. So I've said file, my file equals new file. So I'm calling the file constructor, and I'm passing it a string, and I'm passing it the name of the file that I want to read. Now you have to be careful here as well. So think about it. Where would this file be located? I haven't put a path to it. So because I've just given it the name of my file, it's going to look in my project folder. So you can see it's called myfile.txt. And you can see in my project folder, this is where all of my BlueJ files are. I have a file called myfile.txt. And if I open that, it just has 4 lines in it, line 1, line 2, line 3, and line 4. So if this file is not going to be located in your project folder, you would need to put the full path to it, like C, / something, my documents, wherever. You'd need to put the full path. So when you're playing around with this, just create a file in your BlueJ project folder so you don't run into any problems. Then notice I've declared a new scanner. So it's a new scanner object. I've called it file. It's an instance of scanner. I'm calling the scanner constructor once again, and I'm passing it my file. If we go back to the example we looked at before, I passed it system.in. So that will tell you that scanner has overloaded constructors. It has multiple constructors. In the first example, I passed it system.in to say that I wanted the keyboard to be used as my input. This time I'm passing it a file object. So I'm telling it I want a file to be used as my input. So I've created my file here. I've passed it to my scanner constructor and created a new scanner object that is now pointing at this file. Now have a look at this. This should be familiar to you. It's very similar to when we used iterators. So when I start reading this file, let's just bring the file up here. When we start reading the file, imagine I'm at line 0. I'm above line 1 here. And I look, file.hasNext. We know a while loop checks to see if something is true. It's looking for a Boolean condition. So hasNext is returning true or false. So when I start reading the file, hasNext is going to look at line 1. I don't move to line 1, I look at line 1. And I see if I have something there. If I do, it returns true. Then I go file.nextLine. That moves to line 1 and gets it. So then we loop again. Well, file has next. So we're at line 1, we look at line 2. Do we have something in line 2? Has next. Has it got a next line? If it does, next line moves there and gets it. Has next looks at the next line. Yes, we do have something. Next line gets it. Has next looks at the next line. We move there. Get it. But now at the end of line 4, when I call has next, there is nothing on line 5. So that returns false. So our while loop ends. We've read the file, and all I'm doing with the lines in the file is printing them out. So as we talked about when we did while loops, file reading is a very good thing for a while loop. Iterators, things like that, while we're looping through something and we're just looking to see if there's a next item. That's a little bit off topic, but these are the places that you'll use while loops. So let's run that. You'll notice that also I've declared it as static, so I can call it straight off the class. So let's just options, let's just clear that. So now we can see I'm going to call read file. Let's go back to my terminal. Hang on, I'm going to have to do something here. Let's just read the file. There we go. So you can see topic 6.read file. Notice also, because it's static, we call it straight off the class, not the object. So that's the class name, not the object name. We still use our dot notation. So topic 6, read file, and we printed out line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, all of the content from our file.